what I'm up to. It says, we apologize, but the recording will be saved on your computer. So I guess it's being saved on my computer. Interesting, because I think I started the session.
Yes.
So we're good. Okay, so we're going to talk about online advertising today. My name's Todd Forsyth. I'm the CTO of RSC. Before I started my RSC and Archibus career, I worked at eBay, and one of the things I did for eBay is help with their email marketing. But I worked really, really closely with the folks that did their online advertising as well, and they were kind of one of the pioneers in this space. So I speak from a little bit of knowledge, a little bit dated. It's probably been 5 years since that was kind of what I did for a living, but and the space evolves quickly. So we'll see what I still know. The picture of the maze is because online advertising is kind of a maze. There's so much you can do, and there's so many companies in the space. But we'll talk about kind of the beginnings and how to think about it. All right. Will it move on to the next slide? It will not move on to the next slide. Really? There we go. Okay, so before we start to talk about paid advertising, I wanted to talk a little bit about free advertising. It's not really free because you spend a lot of time working on your content, but search engine optimization, like how to make your own content show up better. So the key question obviously is how do I get found by Google? Because everybody finds the stuff that they find on the internet and even on their phones, I think, by searching. And so, the real question is, how do I get my stuff set up in such a way that I'm gonna, that Google's gonna find it when people search for things like what I'm working on. So a couple of thoughts on that. The first step is, on your website, publish great content. So you want it to be linkable, and what do I mean by that? I mean that it should be something that other people would want to refer back to. Something that is it's not. It's something that talks about the space and something that is going to be useful to other people to link back to, other business partners, other people in the IWMS space that they'd want to refer to you as an expert. So make it something that other people would want to create links to. Make it long, because ultimately Google is searching the text, and it's possible that if you've got some some serious text to be searched, that they will find something they're interested in that text. So if you make it short, there's not a lot of words to search through. Keywords are the sort of end all and be all of internet advertising space. And really what that means is, what are the search terms that people are using to find the content that you're publishing? And I think one of the key things to think about here is the keywords that you think of when you're thinking about this space, like CAFM, like IWMS, are probably not the keywords that they're thinking about, which is more like automated facilities management and computer-aided facilities management and other things that maybe they if they were to be searching for the kind of content you're publishing, what would they be likely to type in without kind of insider industry knowledge? So that's one of the things to think about and try and incorporate into the content that you publish. Any questions about that stuff? Okay.
No.
Linking. So one of the things that Google ranks sites on is how many links into and out of the site there are. And I thought that was interesting that it links to the outside also count, but links from the outside into your site are really, really important. And since they're indexing everything, they can see those other links as well. And if there's links from outside that lead into your site, that ranks you higher in the Google search. Some of this you can do yourself, and it's legitimate and still counts. But if you've got a blog site that's separate from your main website, that's a way to do it. If you've got if you're tweeting and that stuff is indexed as well, that stuff is going to lead to links. If you've got Facebook pages that lead back to your main website, those also count as links. So it's really good to link your content. If you're publishing an article and you want to refer, it's a good idea to refer back to content that's kind of in your own site, and vice versa. It's good to link to outside sites as well if those sites are reputable. So if those sites are industry leading sources, it's the Archibus website, it's other things that are the key definers of IWMS terminology, and you're linking to relevant and well-ranked sites, your own content's going to be considered more authoritative, and so you get a higher score. So linking is important. tagging your content. This is interesting and something RSC probably needs to do a little bit of work on. But there's 3 tags all in the head sections of your HTML for your site that you really want to take a careful look at. One is the title tags. If you take a look at eBay or Amazon's title tags, you'll notice that they're pretty long, and it'll say Amazon, world's leading source for books and apparel and and their meta description tag is the same way. It's a single sentence, but it's probably 3 lines long. Their title's a little shorter than that, and it's one of the key things that the servers index on. So pay careful attention to your title and meta descriptions. There's a section in the head called keywords. Originally, that was looked at and scored by Google, but people packed that with so many keywords they'd make really incredibly long meta keyword sections that Google no longer looks at that. So don't worry about that section. Interestingly, they think that the URLs are important. So if they're actually simple and descriptive, and it sort of says like your site name and articles, and then the title of the article.htm, they score your page higher, which is interesting. And it's often not the way that we organize our websites, but it's better to organize the URLs so that they say something about what the content is. So images, it shouldn't be named image1.jpg. It should be named, IWMS pricegraph.jpg, so that they know what those things are, and that can also increase the scoring that you get. Alt tags are also important, so that if the image doesn't show up, the alternative name that shows up instead describes that, hey, this is the IWMS pricing graph or something, and that helps them score it higher. Responsive design, so that's something we're working hard at RSC, is getting our websites to responsive design so that they show up as well or almost as well on a mobile device as they do on a laptop or desktop, whatever. And if you have that set up and they can tell, you'll score that. They'll score the site higher. There's a lot of templates out there that you can use that will, if your website is built using those templates, it'll automatically be responsive design. And then if this is really important to you and you want to get your website scored high, pay attention to what Google says, because they're constantly changing the way the scoring algorithm works. And they're constantly it's kind of like listening to the Federal Reserve. If they don't really tell you the way they're going to do the scoring, they kind of give hints about the way they're going to do the scoring. So you want to pay careful attention to what their help says about how to get your content scored high. Questions about the search engine optimization stuff? Things you've heard, want to talk about? Okay.
I think I have a couple. I'm just working on them here. The tagging your content piece, back to that, if you could. How you're speaking specifically about the content that would be found, say, for example, on the website that you've created yourself, and you're creating your own title tags, meta description, and meta keywords.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, let's take a quick look. So www.amazon.com. So here's Amazon's web page, and if you look at the source, view page source, and you can kind of see, like, the title kind of shows up here. It says Amazon.com, online shopping for electronics, apparel, computers, books, DVDs, and more. That's the title.
Right. Okay.
So they've put some serious content into there. And then if you look here and you search for description, so here's their meta description tag. Online shopping for Earth's biggest selection of books, magazines, music, DVDs, videos. Anyway, you get the idea. They've sort of listed everything that they have for sale in their description tag, and it kind of tells you what you can find on that site. So this is Amazon. They don't do anything, and they've also stuffed some stuff into their keywords, but nothing's really, that's not really going to be indexed, basically. but this stuff is in the description tag. So it's something to pay attention to, and it's not hard to do,
Right.
but it is something that apparently the indexing software, the crawlers, especially Google's crawler, pays attention to.
Huh. Okay, good. That's good. Thank you.
All right, back to here. Okay, we kind of been through this. Other questions on free search engine optimization? Okay, we'll talk a little bit about paid online advertising principles. So now we're moving from free to paid. So there's types of online ads you can buy. Probably the key type of ad that people generally buy is text ads in search. This is probably super familiar to you, but you can buy the top positions in the search results for particular keywords. Then there's banner and video ads on other people's sites, including big sites like LinkedIn and Facebook. And then mobile ads, including mobile ads in things like games, which is kind of interesting. These days, a lot of games have ad content. And retargeting is kind of a hybrid of those things, so that if somebody searches for a keyword that you're buying in Google AdWords, and you've got retargeting set up, and that same person comes back and is looking at a different site, it will remember that they searched for your keyword, and you'll say, hey, if somebody that searched for my keyword, especially somebody that clicked on that keyword or my content, comes back and is looking at a different site, I want to show them a banner ad. I searched for Harry Potter Land in what is it? Is it MGM Studios, Warner Brothers Studios? Must be Warner Brothers, because that's who does Harry Potter. And that followed me around for months. And that's what retargeting is. Is it basically, you've searched for it once and clicked through to their content, and that's a a key to them that you're interested in their content, and so they're a little more willing to pay to put sort of Harry Potter world advertisements in front of you from that point going forward. You could do the same thing with IWMS or CAFM or Archibus if you wanted. Okay, so types of targeting. You can blanket the world with the advertising that you do, but if you're really interested in specific things, you're probably going to want to target your advertising. One of the most important things to do is to make the advertising keyword specific. And if you start doing a little searching on this and figuring out how people buy keywords, it's really important to buy what they call the long tail keywords. So anybody can buy the computer-aided facilities management or CAFM keyword or Archibus keyword. But those are kind of the short tail keywords, and they're really expensive. There's a lot of people bidding on them. The people that spend their advertising dollars well for paid online advertising are using what are called the long tail keywords. So they're finding the specific 5 or 6 word search terms that their customers use, and they're buying those. When I was at eBay, not only do you search for what you want on Google, but you also search for what you want on the eBay site. And so eBay was, logging the searches that people would do, and the most popular searches on eBay were the keywords that eBay would buy on Google, so that those searches would, on Google would lead back to eBay. And most of those were really specific. It'd be like Gen 4 iPod Touch, and use Gen 4 iPod Touch or something like that. And there's a lot of people searching for that out on the internet, but not a lot of people buying those keywords. So using those long tail keywords makes your advertising more cost effective. Geography specific, so you can buy keywords so that those keywords of those ads are only shown to people in certain geographies. If you're only wanting to grow your business on the West Coast or on the East Coast, or you're specifically looking at a particular state, enough is known about where people are logging into the internet these days that you can target the ads and make them geography specific. And again, that means you're spending limited advertising dollars in markets that make sense to you. And then demographic specific is a little newer, but there's also things that are known about the users that are hitting your site. So if you only want to hit males over 50, you can do a little bit more of that. It's not always known. There's a lot of anonymous browsing of the internet, and so demographics are not always known. So you won't get the false positives, but you might miss a whole bunch of people that really do fit into the demographic by sort of selecting for a particular demographic. But at least you'll know that the people that you are hitting fall into the demographic that you're interested in. Okay, so paying for advertising. There's kind of 3 ways to think about paying for advertising. You can pay on what's called CPM, or impression, so that's clicks per thousand, or sorry, CPM is, I don't know what C stands for. Per PM is per thousand. So, but you're paying per thousand impressions basically, and we don't know whether the people clicked on that or not. All we know is that their browser loaded the image. That's kind of gone out of fashion a bit, and most people these days pay on what's called a pay-per-click basis. So basically, you can still pay per impression if you like. Most people pay per click, and so that's basically saying, hey, I'm putting this ad in front of somebody, and I'm only going to pay if they click. And Google shows a lot of ads, but they're interested in making money on advertising. So they want to show ads that people will click on. So if you're paying per click and you don't have attractive advertising content, they will rank your ad lower, even if you've agreed to pay a higher rate per click. Because if there's another person that is getting a 10% click-through rate and you're getting a 1% click-through rate, they'd way rather show that person's ads. So although you're paying per click, you do need to, if you're doing it this way, you need to make your ads attractive so that people will click through on them. There's services and people that you can pay a flat rate to advertise for you, but mostly what's happening is they're kind of they're standing between you and the actual advertisers, and really they're also paying on that pay-per-click or pay-per-impression basis. Questions about this stuff before we kind of go into more?
No.
Okay. So yeah, this is a chart I pulled from Luma, which is kind of keeping track of the vendors in the space. A couple of interesting things. So one of the things to know is this is a horrendously complicated space with people rushing into it to try and fill little niches into it all the time. So if you're the marketer, you're kind of on, consuming stuff on the left. When we're talking about agencies and things like that, that's largely for very large companies that are having somebody else, do their online advertising for them. A lot of the time, smaller companies are talking directly to the ad networks, which are almost all the way to the right. They're all the way to the right at the top. But there's tons and tons of people and companies that do different things in this space. One of the interesting things to note is the number of companies that are circled in those red dotted lines, which basically means that although they continue to exist as companies, they've been acquired by bigger companies. So there is a fair amount of consolidation going on in the space at the moment, although there's still a sort of bewildering array of services and extensions out there. People doing things. So this is a hard space to get into and keep up with because it's changing so frequently. Every month there's 3 or 4 new entries into these spaces, thinking that they've got a new a little bit extra to add in each of these spaces. Okay, so I wanted to talk a little bit about buying advertising in real time, because one of the things that I find really fascinating is the fact that an ad targeted to you is showing up on a site that you're browsing. Like when I saw those Harry Potter ads coming up, they were loading at about the same time the page was loading, and this happens insanely quickly in the back end. So I wanted to took a look through some content that the Internet Advertising Bureau had put out, and one of the things they'd put out is kind of a walk through what's really going on in the back end. So you're loading a web page, and you're looking at somebody's content, and in about 0.04 seconds, that content starts to load in your browser. Their HTML starts to be returned to your browser. At 0.08 seconds, the publisher asks the ad server, their own ad server, if an ad is available. So has somebody already bought the ad space on this page? If they do, that's pretty simple. They just put the URL to the ad in and you're done. But if there's no ad, the server asks the ad exchange that this publisher is signed up with. So that ad exchange at 0.1 seconds sends an ad request to multiple demand side platforms. These are people that are bidding to put their ads on sites all over the place. At 0.12 seconds, the ad exchange sends all of the people that are publishing ads, they publish their ads on what are called DSPs, demand side platforms. They send them your profile, the profile of the user currently loading the page, the website category, and then any page ad safety info like, I don't really want porn on my site, thanks. At 0.125 seconds, each DSP overlays their advertiser targeting and budget rules and applies third-party data. So they might know more about you than the ad exchange does. Maybe they've seen you before and they know that you happen to be Todd Forsyth, and they that you've come to look at all the ad exchange might know is your IP address, but they look at that IP address and go, aha, that guy has clicked through on our Harry Potter World ad before, we want him. At 0.13 seconds, each DSP algorithm evaluates and computes the optimal ad for the advertiser, and they respond to the ad exchange at 0.14 seconds. The ad exchange runs a second price auction and selects the winning bid from the DSP responses 0.18 seconds. A second price auction is basically where the highest bidder pays the price that the second place person bid. So if you bid a crazy high amount for your ad and the second highest person is bidding a medium amount, you pay a medium amount. But if both of you are bidding crazy high amounts, you're going to pay the second person's crazy high amount. In 0.19 seconds, the ad exchange sends the price and the ad from the winning bid to the publisher's ad server, and 0.23 seconds, the publisher's ad server tells the browser which ad to display, and then the advertiser's ad server sends the winning bid to the browser, and the browser displays the web page, including the winning ad, and signals the winning DSP that their ad was viewed. It takes 0.3 seconds to blink your eye. So in that amount of time, a whole bidding war has taken place on what to show in this space. It's insanely fast. It's so fast that the limiting factor is actually the speed of light. How fast can these servers talk to each other? It's the wires that are getting in the way. The fact, physics is actually getting in the way. That's how fast the system is.
Todd, this is Bob. I have questions about this. So when you buy an ad, I'm assuming it's like what I would call a push ad, where you said Harry Potter. Somebody knows you watch Harry Potter, so Harry Potter's going to show up on your screen.
Yep.
So when you buy these ads, what you're saying is there's no guarantee that they're actually going to be seen. It depends on the amount of money you're willing to pay for them to be seen.
Right.
And if you, okay, yeah,
you
is that
bid,
right?
You bid. You're like, how much will I pay per click? And so when this happens at 0.18 seconds, the ad exchange runs a second price auction, selects the winning bid from the DSP responses. Warner Brothers might be bidding however many cents per click they're willing to pay, but somebody else might be willing to pay more for that space. And if they do, you lose, and your ad is not seen in that impression.
And you're not charged though either, right?
No. And you wouldn't be charged even if you were paying per click. You wouldn't be charged even if your ad was seen, but not clicked on.
Got it. Okay. Very good. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions about this process? Fascinating stuff. Okay, so the rest of the stuff I have is largely sort of what do we learn about this space? What can we take away? How do you do paid advertising? So here's some truths about paid advertising. It's not fire and forget. If you're going to do paid advertising, you have to pay attention to it, and you have to constantly go back and adjust it. Nobody gets it right the first time, so you make your best possible guess and you start your advertising and it doesn't work, and you have to figure out why and you have to adjust it. It's constantly changing. So the way Google does its scoring, the way Google allows you to target people, the way other ad exchanges allow you to target people, the kinds of ad exchanges that you can use, all of that stuff is constantly moving. So, what are the strategies that you can use to do paid advertising? So for big companies, they go big, they hire an agency. And that agency, or they have a large on-site staff like eBay did, who pays attention to the technology and is constantly working internally to develop the best content and do the best ad purchasing they possibly can. for smaller companies, so there's kind of strategy one, which I'll call simple in-house, which is, you start with your own content. Probably you're not going to try and take advantage of that whole huge ecosystem I showed you, but you're going to choose one ad network or approach to start. And that is probably going to be something like Google AdWords, because it's one of the simpler ones and allows you to have huge reach, even if you're sort of keeping it simple. Set a budget, decide how much you want to spend. You can do that on these sites and basically say, hey, I'm going to spend $500 a month on this and no more. And it'll serve ads until you hit your budget. Test and measure. So you want to measure your click-through rate, and when I say test, I mean constantly. I mean constantly be trying out different keywords than you were trying out last week or last month, different content than you were trying out last week or last month, different landing pages than you were trying out last week or last month. A/B testing is definitely the way to go. Your content does get stale. Even the stuff that may have worked last week or last month may not work this week or this month, so you kind of need to constantly be fiddling with it. It does, even this requires some, it's difficult to make this somebody's part-time job. It's difficult for them to spend 4 hours a week on this and be successful. It's something that somebody needs to spend, 20 hours a week on or full-time on to really do this well. Strategy two is outsourcing, where you basically choose somebody to do this for you, build the content and put your stuff up for you. There's a lot of scams running on this. If you look at, I want to outsource my online advertising, you'll get tons and tons of companies that come up that will do this for you. If you choose to go that route, definitely do some research. And what do I mean by that? So look at their own websites and see how their own, do their own websites look professional? Do the ads that they're publishing for themselves look professional? Do they name their list of clients? If you do a search for their name and the word, scam or fraud, are things coming up under that? And if they're publishing some articles online, it's probably on how online advertising works and things like that. It's more likely that they are kind of on the up and up. If you have other people that are working in the same space as you that are using an outsourcer that they're happy with, that's probably something you also maybe want to ask a couple questions about. Okay, and that's really all I have today for online advertising, but I'm happy to answer any questions you guys have.
This is good. Almost overwhelming.
Yeah.
Like you said, it's full time, right?
Right.
And I guess for most of us who are on the phone are kind of small companies. What would be your one or two things that you would recommend that we do?
So, I mean, I think if you're gonna, I think, and this is why I started here. I'm going to go all the way back. No, I'm not going to go all the way back that way. I'm going to go back to this, which is, I think the thing that people can do well is this stuff, which is the search engine optimization. So, Bob, I think you do a great job of sort of social media and getting a bunch of content out there. And I think that, it's probably that's the most important thing a small company can do, is publish a bunch of their own content that then gets searched for and found by others. So they need to pay a little bit of attention to the way they do things, but I think that's the most important thing they can do before they sort of jump off into paid advertising. I'd start with your own site as opposed to doing paid advertising. But I think if you're gonna go the paid advertising route, you either need to outsource. You either need to take strategy two, where you outsource it to another company, preferably a small company that is kind of young and hungry, or you need to devote significant internal resources to doing it yourself.
Okay, very good. Any questions from anyone else? All right. Well, thank you guys. We'll get this recording up, and that actually ends this series. So happy social media stuff at Archibus. So thanks, guys. Todd, thank you very much. It was awesome.
Thanks, Bob. Thanks, Todd.
You bet.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.